everybody, just a little disclaimer before we start the video. I actually uploaded this yesterday, but what happened was I used footage from the season, and as you can see, the video was blocked, and now it is no longer visible on YouTube. So in order to make up for it, because the whole video got copyrighted, I decided to just put gameplay footage of Among Us on it. I know that annoys some people. Trust me, it really annoys me too. If I could do it any other way, I could. I wish I could, but the fact is, what are you going to do with these things? So that's kind of the only disclaimer that I want to tell you guys about. So with that said, let's talk some Amazing Race. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reality TV Pro. Today, we have the first review of the channel focusing on The Amazing Race Season 32, which just concluded about 2 nights ago. Now, before we get into the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more Amazing Race content, Big Brother content, anything reality TV-ish, particularly the CBS ones. You'll probably find content about it here. So yeah, with that said, let's get started. Now, the way I structure these reviews is by first talking about the positives of whatever I am reviewing, and then moving on to the negatives before giving a verdict and a letter grade from A to F. So yeah, that's kind of how this is going to be structured. We're going to be going over the positives, then the negatives, and yeah, we'll sort of wrap this up then. So another little caveat that I forgot to add before going into this is I'm not really a super fan of The Amazing Race. I mean, I like watching it casually, but, I'm not that enthusiastic about it, because when it comes to reality, when it comes to reality TV, I really only like games that have a strategic aspect to them, like Big Brother, right? So under normal circumstances, The Amazing Race wouldn't be the type of show that I would like. However, with that said, it is actually pretty entertaining, and I do enjoy it, so that's just a little caveat I wanted to add. Now, with that said, let's start with the positives about The Amazing Race Season 32. So first off, one of the big positives was the cast. I think the cast was very good. I think it was a really, really good cast. Some standouts that I can think about are people like Leo and Alana, Kaylin and Haley. I know people don't really like them, but I think Will and James were pretty well cast. The football players, I think it was just overall pretty good. I would say there were some misfires. I wasn't a big fan of Hung and Chi. They kind of seemed really bland to me. Same with Ishwar and Aparna. I mean, I felt like the nerdy team was already Leo and Alana, so there wasn't really a necessity for that. However, with that said, overall the casting was an overall positive, and I think it was probably one of the best things. Now, what else? The legs. I thought most of the legs in the challenges were pretty good. Some of the standout legs that I can think of are the Mega leg in India, the France leg, and I also think that the Paraguay leg was also quite good. So overall, there were some pretty good legs. Also, when it comes to the challenges, I think that there were quite good challenges. For example, the bridge one in the finale, the one in the museum in Paris, the one with the food delivery in India. Overall, there were some pretty good challenges. However, with that said, there were also some big misfires in my opinion. The challenge in the final 4 was really, I did not like that challenge. It just seemed far too complicated, and I didn't really like it. And of course, what happened in that final 4 challenge didn't make it any better. And yeah, when it comes to the legs overall, though, I don't think there was really one that was that bad. I think the finale might have been a little bit underwhelming, but I wouldn't blame that on the legs so much as on the final teams. But yeah, with that said, overall, that's another big positive about it. Now, another thing I'll sort of throw in there is that the confessionals they had seemed pretty natural. That's a problem with like Big Brother, for example, that the confessionals seem really scripted and kind of cringeworthy. Here on The Amazing Race, I thought they were pretty natural. There were some genuinely funny moments. There were some funny teams. And yeah, it was just overall a fun ride to be on, pretty much until the final 4. And if you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to the negatives of this season. I'd like to start the negative segment of this season with yet another caveat. As a Big Brother superfan, I'm pretty familiar with alliances and the whole debate about them. And actually, as a general rule, I think that alliances can make a season better. They don't necessarily ruin it. And the reason I think that is because when you have an alliance in a game like Big Brother, it usually creates division amongst the players, and that can allow room for more strategic gameplay and more dramatic moments, and that overall is pretty much always a good thing. However, with that said, The Amazing Race is not Big Brother. The Amazing Race is nothing like Big Brother. They are completely different games, and that is why, in my opinion, there should be no alliances in The Amazing Race. Now, the reason that I say this is because given the format of The Amazing Race, there's no social aspect to it. There's no really any strategic gameplay other than, how do we get through these roadblocks, quicker. There's really no strategy to it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way the game is structured. So, with that said, the limitations of the game pretty much allow it so that one of the only ways the alliances can help each other is essentially by cheating. That's pretty much the only way you can do it, by cheating. And we saw, technically it is not cheating according to the rules, but I mean, seeing teams help each other like we did in the Final Four leg in Manila, I think it was, that should just be considered cheating. I mean, you're having one team do the challenge and just they throw it to everybody else. I mean, I don't think that's just not how the game should work. That takes away all of the drama from it, and it's just one team has to do it, and then the 5-team alliance can just follow their footsteps and get out of there. So number one, that obviously the only way to help is cheating through the game, and number two, that puts teams that aren't in alliances, for example Leo and Alana or Kaylin and Haley, who by the way went out back to back, it puts them at such a huge disadvantage, because I mean, what are you gonna do when you have 5 teams helping each other and you're 1 or 2 teams? There's nothing you can do. You're just obviously gonna get eliminated, and that's unfair. That pretty much makes the game, first person to get in an alliance wins. That's pretty much the game if you're gonna have alliances, and unfortunately, I think that just completely ruins the game. And as another point, a couple of other points apart from the gameplay, as to reasons why I think alliances suck, is that they make for bad TV. It's always fun, you always want to root for the underdogs, right? You always want to root for these, quirky personalities who usually end up being the underdogs. It's always fun to root with them. That's why I had so much fun rooting for teams like Kaylin and Haley in the game, because they kept sucking at the race, no offense. But, I mean, that's one of the best parts of The Amazing Race. And alliances make it impossible to root for underdog teams, because they just go out one at a time while you just see the alliance steamroll through the game. And I don't know, I just think that really ruins the quality of the show. And just as another little note, less important but I still think is worth mentioning, usually the alliances tend to be of very similar personalities. You know what I'm saying? For example, in the Mine 5, as they call it, Gary and D'Angelo and Riley and Madison, I mean, from what I can see, they were pretty much very similar in personalities. And, I mean, yeah, they're pretty much... That basically leads it so that, the teams, the fan-favorite teams with, the fun personalities and who are the underdogs in the race are just getting cut. They're, first, second, and third boots, whereas you have sort of the generic, more... similar people just steamroll through the game until the final 5, final 6, whatever you want, depending on the size of the alliance. And I just think that again, that ruins the show, and that definitely had a big impact this season. I think this season could have been so much better without the Mine 5, particularly in that Final 4. I don't think I've ever seen a more anticlimactic finale than the one we had this season. I mean, there was nobody to root for. I wasn't rooting for any of them. I mean, I was pretty much rooting for Hung and Chi to lose, because, I mean, I just really find them boring. They're really boring. But, I mean, there was really nothing to root for, and ultimately I think that the alliance here, it didn't ruin the season, because again, there were some good elements, but it definitely made it worse. And that is definitely the big negative that I think, pretty much the only negative about The Amazing Race 32. Alright, well, with that said, it is now time for my verdict on The Amazing Race Season 32. Overall, I had a lot of fun with the season. Again, I thought that the casting was really on point. Some of the legs and the challenges were just really, really entertaining. However, that alliance really takes some points off the show. And since we really saw its negative impacts towards the end of the season, I think that it definitely left a sour taste in my mouth and in the mouth of a lot of fans. So I think overall, again, it was entertaining, but I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about, again, given the alliance. So with that said, I am going to give this season a solid B. Minus. B minus. I changed my mind at the last second. B minus. Alrighty, guys. Well, that concludes this review of The Amazing Race 32. I don't know how it's ultimately going to come out looking, because, I mean... It was really a lot of ideas going through my head talking about this season. I think it's a very interesting topic to talk about, so it might have just been a bunch of incoherent nonsense. However, with that said, let me know if you enjoyed the season. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Season 32. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just meh like I did? Let me know. And again, make sure to subscribe. Pretty soon we're going to be doing more videos on this season. I definitely have a couple of videos planned about this season. And we're also going to be reviewing Total Drama Reunion, which I think is coming out, according to Blue, it's coming out in about 3 days. So that's definitely exciting. And we're going to have a bunch more content coming out. So yeah, check this out, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. And with that said, yeah. Have a good one.
Steve, what are you doing?
I'm eating Fun Dip.